I'm Iran, and I'm going to look at the speculative fiction element of surveillance in 1984 and how it still relates to today's world. I'm going to divide this video into 4 categories. 1. How people were surveilled in the world of 1984. 2. How Winston was affected due to surveillance. 3. Examples of surveillance in the normal household. And 4. How the surveillance could be used against us. First, how people were surveilled in the world of 1984. The main form of surveillance in 1984 was through the use of the telescreen. They, or the people on the other end, were constantly watching and listening, waiting for someone to make a mistake and catch them of a crime. Big Brother is watching is a literal quote from the world of 1984, as everyone was always being surveilled, and in this case, Big Brother is referred to as the government. Second, how Winston was affected due to surveillance. Winstons Rebellion started with him starting a diary. When he writes in his diary, he attempts to hide from the telescreen inside of his home. Well, you might think, why not just turn off the telescreen? I quote, "The telescreen could be dimmed, but there's no way of completely shutting it off." Eventually, when he gets together with Julia, they go to Victory Square, a public place where they could hide from the telescreens. The reasoning is that they can get lost in the crowd. Third, examples of surveillance in the normal household. Now, connecting 1984 to today's world isn't that difficult. You can see some similarities, like mics in our smart speakers, mics in our TVs, smart cameras, doorbells, thermostats, and many, many more. These connected devices are constantly sending data to a bigger company like Google or other. Even our phones have digital assistants like Siri and Google Assistant, which are constantly listening. All these things are watching or listening, and this data is being sent to a huge company like Google, who could do whatever they like. Although the data isn't being collected by the government like it is in 1984, this can be compared to Big Brother in 1984. Last but not least, how the surveillance could be used against us. In today's world, with all this great technology, our smart cameras can automatically detect a break-in and alert the police. In this case, it's being used for good, but it also shows how closely these cameras are being monitored and how this could be used against us as well. In 1984, and I quote, "Any sound that Winston made above the level of a very low whisper would be picked up by it." Sometimes you can see examples of our smart speakers turning on without us actually asking for it to. And another example is how our advertisements are more personalized towards us based on what we talk about. These examples show how scarily attentive these mics are. Although this hasn't been necessarily used against us, this shows what could be done. It becomes a question of privacy and whether the lack of privacy could be used against us. I'm Arun, signing off for Dawson News.